in fighting hate speech. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, allow me to welcome Mr. Ozonia Ojielo, the UN Resident Coordinator, for his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Honorable Minister Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement. He's actually connected online, and we have quite a number of persons connected online within Rwanda, but also in New York and internationally. So a significant number of persons have joined us online. Madam Alice Waremun Deritu, the Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General on the prevention of genocide, but who is also the United Nations focal person on hate speech. Ambassador Imani Youssef, Ambassador of Morocco and Acting Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Excellencies, High Commissioners, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of faith-based organizations, NGOs, the representative of the National Consultative Forum of Political Organizations, my dear colleagues in the United Nations system, heads of agencies, and all of our staff, majority of whom are also connected online. Ladies and gentlemen, Maramuse. Good morning and a warm welcome to this momentous occasion. As the moderator has said, is the second edition of the commemoration of the International Day for Countering Hate Speech. The day actually falls on Sunday, 18th June. But since that it is a weekend in Rwanda, we decided to organize together with the government the commemoration for today on a Friday, in recognition of the resolution by the UN General Assembly in 2021 on promoting interreligious and intercultural dialogue and tolerance in countering hate speech. So today we gather here with a common purpose, fueled by a shared commitment to combat the spread of hate speech and to promote a society rooted in unity, tolerance, forgiveness, and patriotism. I would like to express the UN's gratitude to the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement for co-organizing this event in Rwanda. So our reflections today are under the theme, quote, say no to hate speech, end of quote. As we commemorate this day, it is vital to acknowledge the powerful message conveyed by the UN General Assembly when it adopted this resolution in 2021. The resolution emphasized the urgency to address discrimination, xenophobia, and hate speech in line with international human rights law. In his message to mark the 2023 International Day of Countering Hate Speech, the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, reminded us that, quote, hate speech is used to stoke fear and division, often for political gain and at immense cost to communities and societies. It incites violence, exacerbates tensions, and impedes efforts to foster mediation and dialogue. It is one of the warning signs of genocide and other atrocity crimes, end of quote. Colleagues, we are in Rwanda, and the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi remains a stark reminder of the devastating consequences hate speech and genocide ideology can have on humanity. It serves as a painful lesson that compels us to confront these evils collectively and with unwavering determination. Globally, hate speech against different groups and communities is on the rise. These are alarming bells that should wake us all to take action before this atrocious matter spirals out of control. Today's event holds immense significance. It is a platform to raise awareness, spark dialogue, and encourage collective action against hate speech. Together, We aim to challenge negative ideologies in the region, particularly in our sub-region. I call upon all stakeholders present here, but across the country and in the region, the youth, the diplomatic community, development partners, international organizations, civil society groups, and individuals to collectively participate in countering hate speech and to play our part in shaping a society that rejects hate speech and division and embraces unity. Let us remember that words hold immense power. Hate speech, whether online or offline, has real-life consequences. Our collective voice must rise against the spread of hatred. By saying no to hate speech with a hashtag, we can ignite positive change, demonstrating that solidarity can triumph over division. Education plays a vital role in preventing hate speech. By equipping our communities with knowledge and understanding on positive speech, and by promoting tolerance, we can empower individuals to reject hate and to promote empathy and respect. Let us embrace education as a powerful tool in dismantling the foundations of hatred. Today's agenda is designed to facilitate meaningful discussions, exchange ideas, and deliver strong messages against hate speech. We have esteemed speakers who will share their insights and experiences. So for all of us present here today and those who are connected online, I want to encourage everyone to let your voices be heard. We need to engage in an open conversation, as it is through dialogue that we can forge solutions and strengthen our collective resolve. Together, we can build a Rwanda that stands as a shining example of unity, tolerance, forgiveness, and patriotism. Once again, I want to express our gratitude to everyone who's joined today, to the Honorable Minister, to Madam Inderitu and her team in New York, to all the excellencies, ambassadors, and high commissioners and representatives that are present here today, to our partners from civil society, different walks of life in Rwanda, to my colleagues from the United Nations system. We can build a Rwanda that is a shining example for the rest of the world. I express my gratitude to all of you for joining. Let us make this second International Day for Countering Hate Speech a resounding success, amplifying our commitment to a future free from hate and intolerance. And I want to assure you that as we go ahead as a United Nations system, we want to embed the principles of this global agenda to confront hate speech into our programs and our activities. So it will not just be an event that is marked by a particular occasion on the 18th of June every year, but an event that hallmarks and shapes our behaviors, our attitudes, our programs, our activities, and our engagements with various partners. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause to Mr. Ozoni Ojealo. The words indeed hold immense power, and we should work together to fight hate speech so that we can have the world we want, the Rwanda we want. And in our midst, we have Mr. Tristan Murenzi. He's the chairperson of the NGO called Rwanda We Want, and they are working to really have that Rwanda we want. A warm welcome, Tristan.
Good morning. Bonjour. The United Nations Resident Coordinator in Rwanda, Dr. Ozoni, my brother, Your Excellency Yusuf Imani, Acting Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. The International Day for Countering Hate Speech is surely an important day for the international community and for the humanity. But in my country, Rwanda, this day has a bigger significance because we are witnesses of the consequences of hate speech. These words in hate speech led to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis, which claimed more than 1 million lives in only 100 days. Pre-genocide Rwanda was characterized by instability and discrimination, stemming from ethnic and divisive ideologies that resulted in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis. Commendable efforts have been made in the post-genocide Rwanda to ensure that such a tragedy never happens again, and that the country is built on the values of unity and reconciliation that promote sustainable peace. The efforts undertaken by the government of Rwanda and civil society organizations, including Rwanda We Want, of empowering youth to become critical thinkers have helped Rwandans, in particular the post-genocide youth, to be active in the fight against misinformation and hate speech, especially on social media platforms. Hate speech led to the genocide. However, it was not always obvious or direct. Sometimes it was hidden in entertainment. In pre-genocide Rwanda, there was a radio in Rwanda called RTLM, Radio Télévision d'Émile Colline, which promoted discrimination and conveyed hate speech. They used to play trending music of the time and pose to convey discriminatory messages targeting Tutsis in the quest to dehumanize them. And it got worse during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis because the same radio encouraged the killings of Tutsis. Indeed, the arrival of social media has had both positive and negative effects on how information is communicated due to giving a platform to everyone. It has unfortunately given to those who wish to disseminate messages of hate an opportunity to reach a wider audience. As Rwanda is commemorating for the 29th time the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis, one of the recurring themes is the fight against hate speech and genocide ideology, both in Rwanda and in the region, which over the years through social media has found a platform with a larger audience. It therefore, as Dr. Ozania says, requires collective efforts to fight against this misinformation and hate speech. A great peace builder, who I'm sure you all know, and freedom fighter Nelson Mandela once said, "It is so easy to break down and destroy. The heroes are those who make peace and build." While reflecting on this statement of Mandela, I realized that it is so easy to destroy. It could take you only a day to destroy 2 buildings, but it takes years to build only 1. And peace is not that different, because what we call a small act of discrimination or a small act of hate can destroy peace. And regaining that peace would take years of rebuilding. Therefore, let us be cautious of what we say or do, because it takes 1 word or 1 act to destroy peace, while it takes a series of acts and many years to rebuild peace and to heal from the wounds caused by the lack of peace. I will end my remarks today by a quote of my late father, Dr. Nelson Munyandamutsa. I quote, "La parole est une épée à double tranchant. Elle peut détruire ou bâtir," which means that words are like a 2-edged sword. They can destroy or build. May we always be cautious of the power of words. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tristan Murenzi. A very powerful statement, which actually, in a summarized way, urged us to stop and think and do fact check, educate, challenge, support, and report so that we can have the Rwanda we want. Your Excellencies, it's now time to hear the remarks of the representative of faith-based organization, Bishop Dr. Gahungu Bunini, because we know in Rwanda, churches do not serve as where Tutsis were expect them to be. Many and hundreds of innocent Tutsis were killed in churches, and every day, Friday, Sunday, and Saturday we go to church. Let's hear how they are really working hard to change the narrative. Thank you.
Banyakubahwa, reka ngure presentation ngufi mu Kinyarwanda. Nyakubahwa Minisita n'abayobozi bose bari hano imbere, mwese turashimye kubana namwe. Nagira ngo Jenoside yakorewe Abatutsi muri 1994, ngira ngo amadini natwe dufite uruhare runini kugira icyo twavuga, cyane cyane nari ndeba mu ijambo ry'Imana no muri iyo dusomye mu rwandiko Pawulo yandikiye Abakorinto igice cya hano ni igice cya 5:19, aravuga ngo Imana yiyunze natwe muri Kristo kandi yaduhaye umurimo wo gusana imibanire. Ahangaha icyo nshatse kuvuga ni uko dufite uruhare runini kugira ngo amadini agire uruhare gusana ibyasenyutse, cyane cyane nasomye handitswe na Pastor Eric Warene aho yavuze yuko umurimo wo gusana ari umurimo w'itorero. Ndazibuka ubushize ndi muri India, nasanze hari umuyobozi wabayeho witwa Gandhi, yigeze gusanga mu gihugu harabayeho amakimbirane menshi, hafatwa icyemezo cy'uko iyo umuhinde umwe yakoraga undi iryinyo, bakuragamo irindi ryinyo, ijisho ku rindi jisho. Gandhi amaze kuba umuyobozi aravuga ngo iryinyo bagiye kurikuza irindi ryinyo n'ijisho irindi ryinyo, ubuhinde buzaba igihugu kidafite amenyo, cy'abadafite amenyo n'abadafite amaso. Atangira kwigisha abantu uburyo abantu bagomba kubabarirana. Ngira ngo tubivuge yuko itorero rifite uruhare runini cyane, turanabikora dushingiye ku ijambo ry'Imana, kumenya yuko Jenoside yakorewe Abatutsi muri 1994 yagize ingaruka ku Rwanda ariko no ku isi hose, cyane cyane ko nicyo gituma umurimo wo gusana ugomba kuba umurimo ugomba kumvikana kuko ari umurimo wa buri wese. Ndazibuka narimo nsoma ubushize inkuru y'umugabo wabayeho abana n'umudame we, bari baturanye neza, kimwe nuko Abanyarwanda kimwe n'abandi baturage bose bagiye babana. Bukeye umunsi umwe baza kugira ikibazo, baratandukana bagera ahantu umuntu adashobora guhura n'undi ngo amuramutse. Bari baravyaye umwana wabo w'umuhungu, bamwita izina ryiwe ngo ni Mpatanishi. Mpatanishi mu Giswahili ni umuhuza. Noneho bukeye batagihura, batakiramukanya, uwo mwana witwa Mpatanishi aza kurwara. Amaze kurwara, mama wiwe amenya yuko umwana yarwariye kwa papa wiwe, araza ngo ashike asanga umwana ararwaye, asanga umugabo ntiyabasha kumuramutsa, ariko areba wa mwana akarira, akareba undi nawe akareba umwana akarira. Noneho hanyuma umwana agiye gupfa, aza gufata ukuboko kwa papa n'ukwa mama, arabihuza abihuriza hamwe, umwana aracikana. Amaze gucikana, hanyuma umugabo atangira kwibaza igikorwa umwana akoze. Noneho abwira umugore, aramubwira ati kubera ibi ntabwo ngitandukanye nawe, tugiye kubana. Umugabo nawe aravuga ati kubera iki gikorwa umwana akoze ntitugitandukanye. Baza gusanga iryo zina rya Mpatanishi ryari izina ryo kubahuza. Icyo nshatse kuvuga, ndabizi kuko hariho byinshi byabaye byagabashe gutuma abantu bategerana, ariko turashima leta y'ubumwe bw'abanyarwanda ku kintu yazanye cyo kwigisha abantu ari abagiriye abandi nabi bakemera guhura kugira ngo bashobore kubana bitandukanye n'amateka yabaye. Nico gituma nsaba yuko imiryango itwumva cyane, imiryango mpuzamahanga, ko u Rwanda twari dukwiriye gufashwa muri ubwo buryo, ndetse rukanabera n'ahandi hantu urugero. Ndibuka ubushize nari mu Bwongereza, ngera ahantu nsanga mu gace kamwe ko mu Bwongereza, kubera ikibazo cy'amadini, abakatolike n'abaprotestante kutemerana, bagezaho bubaka igikuta, abakatolike bakaba uruhande rumwe, abaprotestante bakaba urundi ruhande, badashobora guhura ngo bagende no mu muhanda umwe. Nibuka baye banereka, narababwiye bampaye umwanya wo kubwiriza, narababwiye nti muzoze kwigira ku Rwanda, kubera yuko mwebwe kubw'amadini gusa, amadini bose bemera Imana, mwagazaho mwubaka imihanda, mwubaka ibikuta, ariko nyuma ya jenoside yakorewe abatutsi muri 1994 hakozwe ibishobotse mu buryo ubu habe no ku ndangamuntu hatakiboneka ubwoko bwo kuvuga ngo umuntu ashobore kuba yakwiyita uyu, ahubwo tugarura ku Bunyarwanda. Ikindi nagira ngo mbabwire nuko nk'itorero turimo turigisha kugira ngo uko Yesu, Bibiliya niko yavuze ngo umurimo Yesu yakoze ku musaraba wari wo guhuza abantu. Natwe turimo turigisha abantu kugira ngo duhereye kuri gahunda nziza y'igihugu cyacu, twumve yuko abantu bagomba kuba umwe, tukubaka u Rwanda rutazosakurangwa n'ayo mateka, kandi tubifashijwemo hamwe n'Imana. Turabizi ko bizashoboka. Imana ibagirire neza.
We tried to summarize what he said. He first quoted the Bible, where Apostle Paul wrote to Corinthians saying that God tasked everyone to forge unity. And then he gave us an example where he was in India and he read that before Gandhi in India, they were practicing the law of Talio, eye to eye, teeth to teeth. But then he told them we could end up having an India of people who don't have teeth and eyes. And then he advised everyone to promote unity and reconciliation. He said that the church has a great role to play because it also played another role in the genocide. He told us a story of a couple, a family. They divorced, but they had a son who was called a mediator. And then one day that son got sick at his dad's. And then the wife came to visit her son. And as the son was dying, he held the hands of his parents, and then he died. Immediately after that act, those two parents got back together. He said that there are a lot of things happen in this country which actually could prevent us from sitting together, but we should actually get back and build our country together. Also, he went in London and he saw a wall separating Catholics and Protestants. And then he told them that they should come to Rwanda to learn from Rwandans how they are living together after atrocious acts committed in 1994. As the church, he said, they are teaching that the heroic acts of Jesus on the cross inspire and should inspire everyone that we have to promote unity and reconciliation. Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, we are now going to welcome His Excellency Mr. Iman Youssef, the Acting Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, for his remarks. Thank you.
Honorable Minister Bizimana, Dr. Ozonia, my friend, on behalf of the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador Guy Nettois, I would like to express our sincere thanks for associating us to this second International Day for Encountering Health. I don't have a written speech, but maybe I can share some ideas, some thoughts with you. Dr. Zonia, in your remarks, you said heat is not only resin, but it's still in the deep of some parts. The president of Never Again said social networks and Miracle in TV and radio contributed to what happened in 1994, I mean the genocide. The question now, I think, is how can we contribute to stop it? What can we do to stop it? Not to stop it, stopping seems difficult, but to reduce it to its minimum level. I think two ideas. First is education. From the birth, we should teach our children how to avoid heat, to give them love, to feed them, to educate them. It's important, I think. And the second idea is how to stop political hate speech. It's important. This kind of speech that is used to provocate, to make hate among communities. The third idea is how to control social networks. As President Never Again said, their contribution is, in the meantime, positive and negative. We should find a way to stop the negative contribution, to control them, to let them go in the right way. That's the three ideas I wanted to share with you and to contribute to this very important event. I'm glad to participate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Indeed, la charité bien organisée commence par soi-même. He urged us to teach our children to avoid hatred. It's now time for the remarks of Mrs. Alice Wemunderitu. She's the Special Advisor of the UNSG on Genocide Prevention. Thank you.
Honorable Minister Dr. Dean Damasimbu. Second International Day for Countering Hate Speech. As the United Nations focal point on hate speech, I'm encouraged by such efforts at the country level and honored to be addressing you today. On the 7th of April this year, we marked the 29th anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. On that day, we remembered the events that began on the same date, in April 1994, when more than 1 million people, overwhelmingly Tutsi, but also moderate Hutu and others who opposed the genocide, were deliberately and systematically killed in 100 days. On that day, too, we remembered one other thing: our collective failure to prevent and protect humanity from the scourge of this crime. Yet, on that day, we reflected on the lessons of that stain on our collective memory. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, since the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, Rwanda has made remarkable progress in transcending the traumatic experiences of its past. It has reconstructed the nation politically, socially, and economically through efforts to promote justice, peace, and reconciliation. It has also embarked on a long-lasting healing process. All these are important steps to unite people torn by atrocity crimes. They require inclusion, they require representation, and they require respect for human rights of all. The independent inquiries into the actions of the United Nations during the tragedies of Rwanda and the Balkans in the 1990s demonstrated in the worst possible way that the international community had failed to protect the populations of these countries and had to do more to prevent genocide. Following these reports, in 2001, the United Nations Security Council invited the Secretary General to refer to the Council information and analysis within the United Nations system on cases of serious violations of international law and on potential conflict situations arising from ethnic, religious, and territorial disputes and other related issues. In 2004, on the 10th anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, the Secretary General launched an action plan to prevent genocide. And in consideration of the previous Council's request, he appointed the first special advisor on the prevention of genocide, establishing the office I lead now. The office has since been implementing policies and strategies aimed at ensuring that never again shall we witness these horrors. Yet, the specter of genocide is always behind the door, waiting for the right moment to penetrate our societies. Many situations around the world are a sad reminder of this. No region or country is immune to the risk of genocide. Also, genocide does not take place in a vacuum. We must all renew our efforts and be alert to the risk factors and the warning signs of genocide and related atrocity crimes if we are really determined to live up to our commitment to protect future generations from these crimes. This includes countering increasing trends in hate speech that is spreading at alarming rates, especially online, contributing to division, discrimination, and even violence and conflict. So I will say this over and over again. Hate speech is not a joke. It can be lethal. So we all know too well how it preceded and contributed to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Through radio television, Libades Mil Collins, RTLM, and how it continues to be weaponized around the world to target people based on their identity. The International Day for Countering Hate Speech offers an opportunity to raise awareness of the dangers of hate speech and advocate for measures to address and counter it. At the United Nations, we are committed to tackling hate speech as an indicator of societal polarization and a trigger of genocide and other atrocities in full respect of fundamental rights and of freedom of expression in particular. We do so by implementing the United Nations Strategy and Plan of Action on Hate Speech. As a focal point of the implementation of this strategy, my office provides guidance and support to all United Nations entities, including in the field, as well as member states, civil society, and new and traditional media on developing global and contextual policy. I'm also concerned about increasing trends of genocide denial and distortion, a particularly insidious form of hate speech. It signals societal fragility. It negatively impacts reconciliation and accountability processes, and it contributes to intergenerational hatred. Yet, to paraphrase Nelson Mandela's famous words, no child is born with hate, so hate speech is taught, and hence it can be fought. Preventative action that addresses the risk factors and warning signs of genocide and other atrocity crimes, including hate speech, must be at the forefront of the international community's agenda. This is essential to protect human dignity and save lives. This is highlighted in the United Nations Charter and in the framework of the African Charter on human and people's rights, and it should be a priority for every country. So I encourage all of you to address and counter hate speech and genocide denial and distortion while preserving fundamental freedoms. This can be done through education. Teaching new generations about past genocides and the process that led to their commission is important. It can help instill in learners the importance of standing up against hate, dehumanization, and discrimination against populations based on identity. Education that is based on facts and science, that promotes empathy and inclusion, helps us create societies in which division and hate will never prevail. It can also enable us to strengthen our digital literacy skills to reject those who spread hate online. The best way to honor the victims and survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda is to make sure that no one else endures the suffering of genocide. On this year's International Day for Countering Hate Speech, I call on you once more to remember, unite, and renew our efforts to prevent this heinous crime. Thank you.
A very powerful statement. Genocide does not take place in a vacuum. Hate speech is not a joke, and no child is born with hate. It is taught. And this day offers a great opportunity to take a collective action. Let's remember, unite, renew. Another round of applause to Mrs. Alice Hamilton. Your Excellencies, there has been a slight change in the program. We are going first to have the open discussion after every powerful word we had today. What could be our commitment? What could be our message? What could be our insight? So it's open, and there is a wireless handy microphone. My colleague will help us move it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ozonia. Thank you for this event. Yesterday, I just checked a bit what's going on here. I don't know what really the office is still doing. I know about this plan of action, which is very important. However, for me, I just want to start by saying that 80 years ago, it was Adolf Hitler who made speeches, and one of them I just share with you part of it. So he said in 1941, "Today I will once more be a prophet. If the international Jewish financier in and outside Europe should succeed in plunging nations once more into a world war, then the result will not be the Bolshevization of Earth, but it will be, and the victory of the Jews, but the annihilation of the Jewish race in Europe." That he said in 1941. And later on he said, "The criminal race has the 2 million dead of the First World War on their hands and conscience, and now hundreds of thousands. Let not one say to me, we cannot send them into the fire. They don't concern our men. It is good to proceed with the terror that we are exterminating the Jews. The attempt to find a Jewish state will fail." So there are just two speeches, and then we jump to 30 years ago when we heard so many speeches here. And now it continues with speeches that we hear in neighboring country, DRC, and the threat is still there. So I really, I think effort should be stronger and louder to fight the speeches now. I don't hear much of the international community doing. I don't know if there was a Security Council discussion, maybe you can tell me, about the hate speeches in Congo. I don't know if anyone initiated it. Maybe the Secretary General should initiate, or a country or a member of the Security Council. But what we should think is really a convention. And I wonder, there's so many international conventions. Yes, we need to designate what is hate speech versus freedom of speech, of course, which is very important human right, basic human right. But I think a convention should be considered. Only ILO has 192 conventions. They did this since 1919. And the others, the other organizations of the UN has so many conventions that were drafted and adopted. So I think that should be really the objective of the office and of the Secretary General. Maybe you can tell us if anything is done on this. And I'm really worried, of course, of what's going on in neighboring country, Congo, about the hatred speeches against the Tutsi there, and it can be a beginning of another genocide. So we really need to do more to attract the world attention. Thank you.
We have also other colleagues joining online. Also, feel free to raise your hand, and our colleagues will unmute you so they can speak. For us here, the microphone is on the table.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, and thank you, my brother Ozonia. Yesterday, Ozonia asked me to say a few words on the agenda here, and I thought, no, I don't know enough about this subject to be able to share something that makes sense. But today, listening to the speeches that were given here, I was asking myself, this is existential. This is who we are as human beings. This is not an intellectual topic. This is an experiential topic. So how can I claim that I don't know much about this? Am I being irresponsible? And it reminded me, 6 years ago, my daughter came home in hysteria. She was crying. She was heartbroken. Her friend had just committed suicide. I was to learn that she had committed suicide because she was being bullied about how she looks and how she is. That trauma led her to kill herself. Now, when we talk of hate speech, it sounds so distant, as I thought yesterday. But I think we must learn to identify hate speech in our everyday living, in our everyday language. And I want to leave you with 3 ideas, 3 thoughts that might be helpful. The first one is, how do we recognize hate speech? Now, in our everyday interaction, we tend to rationalize bad behavior. We tend to rationalize hate speech. And the most damaging people in history have actually been those who are incredible at speaking. Hitler himself was an electrifying public speaker. Although today, when we see him in newsreels, he appears almost funny, but he was an electrifying public speaker. And today, we also have leaders who are the same, and we follow them. They're charismatic. They make us believe that the world is a dichotomy, and we have to make a choice between the lives of those who are dying in Sudan, the lives of those who are dying in Eastern DRC, and the lives of those who are dying in Ukraine. What a ridiculous choice. These are all human beings. Why are we not finding it amongst ourselves to say what is driving us apart? And that we must recognize and weed out from our society. But we must also recognize that hate speech comes in everyday things that we rationalize, whether we want to think of it as freedom of speech, whether we want to think of it as, I'm being helpful. My daughter's friend was being bullied because she looked a particular way. And somebody decided to make fun of that. We do that in our lives, and I think that we must recognize that. The second thing is, many of the online companies have not taken enough responsibility to help us weed hate speech out of our community. And we must reject that. Because hate speech nowadays is shared through social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, whether it's now with AI, it's even more terrifying what we are going to see in the coming years. Why is it that we are allowing companies to make a choice between something that damages us as human beings and profit? Why can't they invest enough in preventing this very damaging thing in our society? The last one is kindness. This is happening because we are losing a basic attribute that makes us human. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. And that is running away from us as human beings. Whenever you pass a comment to someone, have the decency to say, how is it going to reflect? How are they going to react to this comment? My daughter has not recovered from that trauma. A young life was taken senselessly. And that's something that you and I can prevent. Hate speech must be eliminated from our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'm really touched by the presentations that have been made here about hate speech, because it touches on our very existence as human beings. Hate speech damages us. It damages our existence. It damages what people believe in us. It destroys us. It should not be promoted at all. Governments must come up with policies to stop hate speech. That has an impact to our lives. Hate speech destroys us as a human people. We are and we should be humane. We should be kind to each other. We should feel for one another. Hate speech just damages us. It creates life-threatening perceptions. And I think the resident coordinator and representative of the Secretary General, UN Secretary General mentioned it. It is about our lives. It destroys us as a people. And I think also someone said that no child is born with hate speech. It means they are socialized into hate speech. It means as a society, as individuals, we can stop hate speech. I'm so grateful that this conference has been organized. It makes us reflect on who we are. Why are we getting into hate speech? If you look at social media, if someone does good, if someone shows empathy, if someone shows that they are a human being, then you see hate speech happening around that. You know, we are human beings that are supposed to be kind. But when someone is hated for doing good, it means we are losing it. We need to put an end to it. Thank you very much for organizing this. Together, we can conquer hate speech as governments, civil society, academia, the private sector, family levels, individual levels. We need to do something to stop hate speech. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Yes, did you?
Thank you so much. I'm personally very touched by the remarks and contributions which have already been made in this room. Very grateful for the invitation extended to me. The UN resident coordinator here in Rwanda, and I would like to share a few words. I always ask myself what it should take to be at peace and have stable nations. I realize that love and peace are so sweet and the strong pillars for a stable society. Of course, handling its sustainable development also. Since our independence in Rwanda and in Burundi, we've been knowing ups and downs. But I'm very happy today to see that we can set good examples to many parts of the world. The world didn't expect Burundi and Rwanda to heal at this moment. Someone used to say, where sufferings increase, we also end up leading a successful life. The past can teach us very well, and we can come up with very good results if we want it. I realize that it takes love, it takes humility and sincerity in all our discussions and what we do for our societies to be stable. As we talk about how to counter hate speeches, sincerity is very important because we really need to mean what we say. And I would like to underline what Ambassador Issouf said on education. Child education since birth. I would like to add also that in countering hate speeches, teaching love, care, and the humility and the sincerity are parts that need to be included in our education school curriculum. Whether for children, those growing up in secondary schools and universities, if this can be done, we can bring about a very great contribution. I'm very thankful for this session and would like to encourage really that more efforts and the participation be made to have this done, not only in one corner, not only in Burundi, not only in Rwanda, but we need to reflect the examples of the success stories that took place in Kigali, in Rwanda, in Burundi, to influence the whole region and even go outside the region, because we've got a lot to share. We need to be courageous enough not to hide the gold that we hold in our hands, but take it outside for others to heal. We can stabilize the world if you want, as we can destroy it if you want. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First of all, Ausonia, for bringing us together on this topic. I think this is exactly what the UN should be doing, bringing together the international community to discuss topics of such importance. And of course, these topics resonate in particular here in Rwanda, which has seen the tragic events of '94. But we also have to recognize that it affects all of us. I mean, the issue of hate speech is an issue in all countries. It is an issue also in my country, Belgium. I have no claim to originality. I just want to highlight two aspects of what has been said before. One is education. Several speakers have spoken about it, that the important role of education, which must help arm our kids against socializing, the socializing of hate speech. And as Tristan has said, critical thinkers. So we must constantly ask ourselves, are we doing enough to raise our children to become critical thinkers. Because what you see in hate speech in the past and the present, etc., is, you know, a repetition of very simple messages, a monolithic reading of what is going on, and a denial of the complexity of things. Now, reality is complex. Problem of hate speech is complex, and we must recognize that the solutions will also be complex. Thank you.
Je vais d'abord dire quelques mots en français, puis ensuite je vais redire la même chose en anglais. C'est généralement plus simple pour moi. Simplement pour remercier effectivement Ozania d'avoir organisé cette importante conférence. Il y avait aussi les propos de Madame Ouaritou là, qui étaient tout à fait intéressants. Et par rapport à ce qu'a dit l'ambassadeur du Maroc, Youssef Oumani, l'éducation effectivement c'est capital, mais il y a aussi deux outils, deux instruments qui paraissent essentiels pour combattre les discours de haine. C'est d'une part l'histoire et d'autre part la justice. L'histoire, pourquoi? Parce que c'est ce qui permet, la science historique, de différencier les faits historiques de la propagande, c'est absolument essentiel. Et la justice, parce que c'est d'une part ce qui permet éventuellement de rendre justice aux victimes, et aussi de faire la différence entre les victimes et les bourreaux. Parce qu'on sait très bien qu'un des problèmes des discours de haine, c'est qu'ils encouragent la confusion, c'est qu'ils finissent tous d'ailleurs par développer, outre des génocides éventuellement, le complément de tout génocide qui est le négationnisme. Et pour combattre ce négationnisme, je crois que deux des très bons outils, outre l'éducation, c'est l'histoire, c'est la justice. So now I will say it in English. I wanted to say that beyond education, which is an essential tool, of course, to fight against hate speech, there are also two other tools which are essential, which are indispensable. These tools are history and justice. History, why? Because this is a science, so it allows, to differentiate between the facts, the historical facts, and the propaganda. There is a tendency, for hate speakers, I would say, or for people who want to promote hate speech, to promote a kind of alternative history, and this is very, very dangerous. And justice, it's necessary also because, first of all, we owe it to the victims. Of course, there cannot be reconciliation without justice. This was demonstrated in several countries, and one can remember also, the name of the Justice and Reconciliation Commission, I believe, in South Africa, with Desmond Tutu. And also, it's justice is also indispensable because when people are condemned either by the international justice or by the local justice, or even what happened here in Rwanda by the Gacaca, then these are steps forward against the denial of genocide, because as we know, every genocide is accompanied by its denial. This is something universal, which means that the fight against negationism, the fight against hate speech, is never totally won. It has always to be we have to act, against this. I would say this is a never-ending process, unfortunately. And so I believe that the three main tools are education, history, and justice. That's what I wanted to say.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Angoga Richard, representing an NGO, Hope and Peace Foundation. And Hope and Peace Foundation activities focuses on social cohesion, unity and resilience, mental health care, social development. I'm a youth and an author, and I'm about to publish my book named Off the Junction, focuses on youth who were born after the genocide in 1994 against the Tutsi. And my book is focusing on how the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994 affected us, the youth who born after the genocide against the Tutsi, and it is educating the youth and the rest of the world about the peace and love and unity. And I'm happy for this event because the hate speeches affect and share people to hatred societies. And as a Rwandan youth, I'm happy for this event, and we must fight hate speeches wherever they are, like social medias. And thank you again to invite us. And I assure that I'm going to share what I learned here to my fellow youth. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, mesdames et messieurs. If we can have last two interventions. Thank you.
Merci. Je m'appelle Maître Ngoga Olivier. Je suis avocat et je représente le Parti socialiste rwandais. Previously, people raised the problem of DRC. Il y a un collègue qui a parlé de DRC et de l'éducation. Dernièrement, nous avons remarqué qu'il y a des vidéos qui circulent où les élèves de l'école jouaient à un sketch où un élève citait les noms des pays limitrophes du Congo. Et à la fin, il mentionnait que le Rwanda et l'Ouganda étaient des pays ennemis. Par rapport à l'éducation que vous avez évoquée, je crois que ce que nous sommes en train de faire aujourd'hui ici, les Nations Unies doivent le faire aussi au Congo, interpeller les autorités et commencer à amener ce changement par rapport au discours de haine, parce que nous sommes dans une zone de turbulence de façon que ici, nous sommes dans ce qu'on peut appeler healing process, but in Congo, there are symptoms of genocide. Si on ne fait pas ça au Congo, ça ne sert à rien de continuer, parce que ça va quitter le Congo, ça va encore revenir ici au Rwanda. Donc, je dirais que s'il y a eu génocide au Rwanda, après qu'on ait dit never again, et puis après presque 30 ans, il y a eu génocide, et s'il y a encore un autre génocide au Congo, ça serait une honte pour tout le monde. Et à l'occurrence, à la communauté internationale, je vous remercie.
A short summary of what he said. He said that last time he saw a video trending of students at a school entertaining hate speech against Rwanda and Uganda. And he said that what we are doing here as the UN in Rwanda should be done also in DRC, so that because here in Rwanda we are healing from the genocide, but in DRC there are symptoms of genocide. And he said if it happens again in DRC, that would be a big shame. Yes.
Maybe before we invite the Honorable Minister for his statements as a guest of honor, I thought it would be important to respond to some of the issues raised by my dear friend, Dr. Ron Adam, the Ambassador of State of Israel. We have opportunity as an international community to reframe our approaches to violence and conflict. We are very strong after the fact, but often not before. And the whole logic of the UN Charter is about promoting the amicable resolution of conflicts and peace, stability, and security in our communities. If you take the example of Rwanda, when the UN system withdrew, I mean the international community withdrew, the peacekeeping countries withdrew their contingents, in spite of the statement by the first commander that genocide was about to happen. And Rwanda, unfortunately, has not been the last example. And so the risk we run today as an international community is that as the ambassador of the Kingdom of Belgium said, it is spreading, it is in all our societies, we are threatened. So at a moment when we need platforms like the UN system more than before, Unfortunately, we seem to be contributing to the delegitimization of the United Nations system in relation to international peace and security. So we say we want the UN, we say there's a platform, but we are contributing to the delegitimization of the United Nations system. The UN doesn't have an army, it doesn't have a police. So when we deploy peacekeeping missions and a Security Council gives them a mandate, often protection of civilians is a core part of the mandate of most peacekeeping missions, plus that has humanitarian but also security and development dimensions. And yet, when you see signals like we see in parts of our neighborhood, the peacekeeping contingents are not able to respond, they're not able to act because we have something you call the Status of Forces Agreement, that the troop contributing countries are the ones who determine at what point their peacekeepers are deployed, at what point they engage in offensive action to protect civilians, and at one point they engage in pacifist actions. So the consequence is that the communities that are threatened, like this video that is being talked about, the communities that seek the peace, that seek the protection, don't find it. But what is the face of the international community in that country? It is the United Nations system. The communities lose confidence in the UN and therefore in a sense of international order, international peace and security. The result is resort to private justice, to community action, vigilantes, community armed groups to protect themselves, because the international community through the United Nations system doesn't seem able to offer the protection that communities need. It's a dilemma that ideally, and we don't need to internationalize it to New York. We together us here in the briefings that go to our respective headquarters, in the mobilization that happens, the advisories to our government, it's important to begin to change state behavior and state practice in terms of effective action by the international community. So that's one element of the contradiction. The second element of the contradiction is that it is the same international community after the 1994 genocide that came together and said this must not happen again, passed resolutions at the Security Council, established the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda based in Arusha, and began effectively to arrest some of the genocidaires and the principal minds, to prosecute them, to contribute resources for the operations of the ICTR, and to host some of the convicted genocidaires in their home prisons. So the challenge that faces us, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary General calls for a surge for peace, a surge for mediation, a surge for preventive action for international peace and security. But that surge for preventive action means we should be acting before, when there is smoke, before the smoke begins to percolate, and then you see violence and insecurity. So even in communities and societies where you're seeing hate speeches, hate mobilization, we're not speaking out as an international community. We're not engaging the government, and we are the ones with the lever. We are the ones with the tools for influence to say to the government, our cooperation with you might be imperiled if you don't rein in your soldiers who are aligning with militia groups, your politicians who are uttering hate speech, and so the muzzle we have for influence, we're not deploying them. So it's very confident to say to the UN system, do something, but the UN is only as strong as a collective of the member states. So if we can all agree that starting from today, we need to work together and then challenge the UN to be our collective voice to engage, then it is much stronger. That's why it was important for me and my colleagues in the United Nations country team to organize this event, because at our level, it's in the advocacy, it's in the mobilization, it's in our engagement, it's in our programs that we will do our bit. The bigger influence is when the member states begin to engage those governments and begin to sanction those political actors in countries that are promoting hate speech, but then begin to say to the UN, we are with you, speak for us on this, and we'll give you the resources to engage. If we don't do that, the risks are so significant. I want to end with something that many of you may have seen, and that's the risk of AI, as my dear brother Max has pointed out. You saw the video It's an AI-generated video of the president of France at the UN General Assembly, in quotes, making apologies to all the former French colonies for the actions of France. It's generated by AI. So the risk of undermining the legitimacy of our public officials, our public institutions, and sowing discord in our societies have become worse. And unless member states begin to come together to begin to regulate in some form social media, at least put the bars on accountability and verification. I know it's difficult to have a universal agreement on what is hate speech because our constitutions, our rules are different about free speech and enabling free speech. But you can have a plan of action at the national level on where the borderline is crossed and where accountability lies for doing those. And I only want to end by saying that as a United Nations system in Rwanda, we are happy and eager to work with you. I'm working with my colleagues in the region, and we are here eager to work with some of you who are interested in building a coalition in the Great Lakes region. A coalition that promotes economic opportunities, engagements, highlights the role of economic and financial actors as critical vectors for peace. Peace is not just made by the politicians and governments. Peace is actually accelerated when economic and financial actors with a stake in those societies, in those economies, come together to mobilize and to deploy their influence and their capabilities to seek to promote peace in the region. That's something that myself and my colleagues in the country team here are eager to promote, and we're having conversations with our country teams in the region to advance those objectives. I thought it was important to clarify those issues. Thank you very much. And on that happy note, I think it's my honor and pleasure to invite the Honorable Minister, Jean Damascene Bizimana, to make his statement as our guest of honor.
Excellences, Monsieur le représentant résident du Bureau des Nations Unies au Rwanda, Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs les ambassadeurs, chefs de mission diplomatiques et représentants des organisations internationales accréditées au Rwanda, Madame Alice Nderitu, conseillère spéciale du secrétaire général pour la prévention du génocide, distingués invités, Mesdames, Messieurs. Bonjour à tous. C'est avec un grand intérêt que nous nous joignons au reste du monde aujourd'hui pour célébrer la Journée mondiale de lutte contre le discours de haine. Pour le Rwanda, c'est une occasion qui nous est donnée comme réflexion sur notre histoire, qui a malheureusement été façonnée par les discours de haine, sur le fond desquels le génocide perpétré contre les Tutsis en 1994 a été exécuté. Les discours de haine ont attisé l'idéologie génocidaire qui a été développée depuis les années 1950 par les partis politiques créés sur la base ethnique et qui prônaient la division entre les communautés, la haine de l'autre, mobilisant ainsi une partie de la population Hutu à se lever contre les Tutsis jusqu'à leur extermination. Le Rwanda a eu le grand malheur d'avoir sous la Première et la Deuxième République, entre 1962 et 1994, des politiciens comme Kayibanda qui a fondé le parti Parmehutu sur une idéologie ethniste qui prêchait publiquement la haine contre les Tutsis. Son successeur, Juvenal Habyarimana, n'y a rien changé, mais a plutôt adopté la même ligne politique, y ajoutant un élément régionaliste qui n'a fait qu'aggraver la haine et la division au sein du peuple rwandais. Les différentes recherches menées sur les génocides montrent que tout commence par le choix d'une idéologie qui ensuite est véhiculée par un discours de haine mené contre une population cible à éliminer. Cette chaîne de transmission de l'idéologie du génocide jusqu'à son exécution se fait par le canal des médias et des discours publics qui incitent et encouragent le génocide et les crimes de masse. Au Rwanda, les discours de la haine et la propagande haineuse transmise depuis des décennies ont contribué à engendrer les violences qui ont permis le génocide des Tutsis. Il est essentiel de rappeler qu'un génocide est le résultat d'un processus qui nécessite du temps, de la planification et des ressources, mais aussi qu'il est précédé par des actes déclencheurs alimentés par la haine. L'histoire nous enseigne également que les discours de haine sont des signes précurseurs de la perpétration de crimes et d'atrocités, comme cela s'est produit lors de l'Holocauste et lors du génocide perpétré contre les Tutsis au Rwanda en 1994. Les discours de haine et la déshumanisation de l'autre étaient présents pendant, après et bien avant que le génocide des Tutsis ne soit exécuté. À partir de l'année 1957, au Rwanda, il a été publié des documents haineux et qui propageaient des messages et des idées discriminatoires envers les Tutsis. La publication de ces documents s'accompagnait d'une politique prônant l'extermination des Tutsis. Cette idéologie politique s'est poursuivie jusqu'à génocide total des Tutsis en 1994. À la base de cette idéologie de haine se trouvait Joseph Habyarimana Gitera, l'un des premiers politiciens du Rwanda, fondateur du parti Aprosoma, considéré comme le pionnier de la propagande de la haine contre les Tutsis et tristement célèbre de par son document intitulé « Les 10 commandements des Hutus », publié en septembre 1959. S'en est suivi alors les massacres de Tutsis et leur exode vers les pays voisins. Le mot génocide apparaît pour la première fois au Rwanda pour qualifier le massacre de 1963, organisé par le président Kayibanda et son régime, qui envoyait les ministres pour mobiliser la population et se débarrasser de ce qu'ils appelaient l'ennemi Tutsi. Ces appels à la haine sont lancés par la radio Rwanda à l'époque, appelant à débusquer l'ennemi Tutsi. Les discours de Kayibanda, à chaque cérémonie officielle, ravivaient la haine contre les Tutsis, qui, selon lui, maintenaient les Hutus sous le joug de la féodalité. C'est encore le président Kayibanda qui organisa en février 1973 l'opération dite de déguerpissement contre les Tutsis dans les écoles et dans l'emploi. Après son coup d'État de 1973, le président Habyarimana a mis en place une politique de discrimination qui favorisait systématiquement les Hutus du Nord. Il établit une politique dite d'équilibre ethnique et les Tutsis furent discriminés dans tous les secteurs de la vie publique du pays. Au Rwanda, la période d'octobre 1990 à juillet 1994 a été marquée par la diffusion d'une idéologie de la haine ethnique distillée à longueur de journée par les partis politiques et les médias. Les meetings des partis politiques dits Hutu Power ont incité à la haine des Tutsis. Des journaux extrémistes ont incité les Hutus à la haine des Tutsis en général et au génocide. Et ces journaux, j'en peux citer quelques exemples: Kangura, la radio RTLM, Kamarampaka, la Médée Nyiramachibiri, Echo de Mille Collines, Umurwanashyaka et autres. Ainsi, par exemple, le 27 janvier 1994, la radio-télévision libre de Mille Collines a diffusé des appels aux Hutus pour s'unir et se battre jusqu'au dernier, en prétextant que les casques bleus belges d'Oraminoir, la mission des Nations Unies pour l'assistance au Rwanda, qu'ils auraient l'intention de livrer le pays aux Tutsis. Vous vous rappelez certainement que le 22 novembre 1992, lors des meetings politiques tenus dans la sous-préfecture d'Okabaya, M. Léon Mugesera, alors membre influent du parti au pouvoir, le MRND, dans son discours empreint de messages de haine, annonçant en référence aux Tutsis, je cite, « L'erreur que nous avons commise en 1959 est que, même si j'étais encore enfant, ce que nous vous avons laissé sortir. » Je lui ai demandé s'il n'a pas entendu raconter l'histoire des Farachas qui sont retournés chez eux en Israël, en provenance d'Éthiopie. Il m'a répondu qu'il ne savait rien. Je lui ai dit, ne sais-tu pas donc ni écouter ni lire? moi je te fais savoir que chez toi c'est en Éthiopie que nous vous ferons passer par la Nyabarongo pour que vous parveniez vite là-bas. C'est par ces messages de haine que les Tutsis ont été déshumanisés et réduits à l'état d'insectes ou d'animaux dangereux. Ces propos ont été diffusés à la radio Rwanda et dans la presse écrite. Actuellement, les Tutsis congolais sont utilisés avec le même discours de haine, soit disant que ce serait des Rwandais qu'ils doivent retourner chez eux, comme Léo Mugesera parlait en 1992 en indiquant que des Tutsis rwandais devaient retourner en Éthiopie. De nombreuses personnes au Rwanda, en particulier les auteurs des crimes, ont été conscientisés et convaincus que les Tutsis étaient moins humains que le reste de la population. Nous constatons le même discours en République démocratique du Congo. Par le biais des messages de haine, le gouvernement, les personnalités publiques, les militaires, les médias, les miliciens ont appelé à l'épulation et au massacre des Tutsis. Lorsque les auteurs ont lancé l'émission d'élimination des Tutsis, les gens ordinaires qui ont participé aux tueries avaient été psychologiquement préparés à détruire les Tutsis, croyant faire ce qu'il fallait. Cette journée que nous célébrons aujourd'hui fait partie des 100 jours de la commémoration du génocide contre les Tutsis perpétré au Rwanda en 1994. 29 ans après ce terrible génocide qui s'est déroulé sous les regards de la communauté internationale, nous assistons encore et depuis à la continuation et la recrudescence de ces mêmes messages de haine qui ont endeuillé le Rwanda, mais cette fois-ci, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, dans la région des Grands Lacs. Si nous voulons prévenir de telles calamités, il est de notre devoir de toujours être attentifs à cette forme de discours de haine. Les mots deviennent des armes et les discours de haine peuvent conduire à la violence la plus extrême. Les discours de haine sont toujours présents pendant les génocides, mais aussi avant et après. À cette occasion, nous renouvelons notre appel à la communauté internationale de son engagement à prévenir la récurrence actuelle des discours de haine et de l'idéologie génocidaire qui sévissent toujours sur notre continent et plus précisément dans notre région des Grands Lacs. L'idéologie génocidaire est plus que jamais manifeste dans notre région. Plus précisément, je le disais encore tout à l'heure, dans l'est de la République démocratique du Congo, région qui, il y a de cela 29 ans, a accueilli en masse des milliers d'auteurs du génocide commis contre les Tutsis. C'est cette même idéologie de haine qu'ils ont transmise dans la région et qui est aujourd'hui la base des massacres et tueries contre les populations congolaises détenues Tutsis, comme cela s'est produit au Rwanda en 1994. Les appels à l'extermination, les discours de haine et l'approbation connexe par les responsables gouvernementaux et l'appareil de sécurité ne peuvent que conduire à plus de discrimination et à plus d'insécurité, non seulement pour la population ciblée, mais aussi pour la région dans son ensemble. Il est grand temps, mesdames, messieurs, que le monde et l'Afrique s'engagent avec fermeté à prévenir et mettre fin à toute forme de transmission de la haine. Le Rwanda reste engagé à combattre toute forme de discrimination, de divisionnisme et de haine, et surtout à mettre fin à sa propagation par quel canal qu'il soit. Je souhaite que cette journée soit réellement un moment de pensée aux victimes actuelles des idéologies de la haine et de s'engager à les combattre et à prévenir toute forme d'appel aux crimes de masse et au génocide partout où ces crimes risquent de se produire. Je réitère aussi l'appel à tout un chacun de s'engager davantage, comme l'a dit Mme Marie Senderitou, à lutter fermement contre le négationnisme qui est une autre forme d'appel à la haine et de persistance de l'idéologie génocidaire. Merci de votre attention, mesdames, messieurs. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Honorable Ministre. I'm going to summarize briefly what he said. The Honorable Minister said that for Rwanda, it is another occasion to reflect on our history, which is unfortunately characterized by hate speech, which therefore caused genocide, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. He went on to say that the President Kayibanda and President Habyarimana, the former president of Rwanda, always promoted hate speech. And various researches done on the genocide showed that genocide always is started by hate speech. And in Rwanda, hate speech caused and fueled the genocide. Hate speech is also a starkly clear sign of a genocide in preparation. He said that in Rwanda, hate speech was given place in media. In 1959, Prosper Gitera introduced 10 commandments of Hutu, and his hate speech caused many atrocities, including the total genocide in 1994. When the President Habyarimana, the then President of Rwanda, took over the office in a coup, he established a policy called ethnic stability to promote Hutu in the from the north of Rwanda. Media houses like Kangura, Murwanashyaka, RTLM, they also diffused and messages to call for Hutu to exterminate innocent Tutsis. In 1972, in a meeting of political forums in the southern Rwanda, Leon Mugesera, who was in the ruling party, MRND, said a powerful and bad statement. The minister quoted, and the Leon Mugesera said, even if he was a child, the error they committed in 1959 of letting some survivors live, they will correct it and send back Tutsis to Ethiopia, where they came from. He said, we are witnessing the same hate speech in DRC. And this hate speech make perpetrators think that committing genocide is doing the right thing. And he said we have to pay much attention as these acts develop. He said now more than ever before, we are witnessing the genocide ideology from the eastern DRC, a region which received a massive number of genocide perpetrators. It is time that we join forces globally and fight hate speech, and Rwanda is committed. He therefore reiterated the call, echoing the speech of Madame Alison Deritu, to work together to also fight the alarming genocide ideology. Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, Mesdames et Messieurs, this speech of Honorable Minister takes us to the end of this event. I thank you so much. On the agenda, there is an item of network. Now I believe it's a time.